My name is Quiroz, and we're standing on the veranda porch of the Hotel Florence. I'm with my niece, Lisa Ciokon from San Diego, California. And I'm showing the town of Pullman. And I'm showing her my roots of the neighborhood. We used to race around here in cars. Race around her. There's a two-way street.
With a two-way street, you're racing around? Oh my goodness.
See, mine AQ 1953.
Oh, even the years up there.
Yeah.
I think we were trying to
Here's Ray's right here.
we were looking.
57, I think. RQ.
And what was in the basement? There was parties in the basement too,
No,
right?
no, that was just a storage room. They had, see these bricks right here. These bricks right here. There's a doorway here and a doorway there. One going to a tavern, and the other one going to a restaurant right there.
That's really neat.
And I used to look out the window and catch the CTA bus. They used to stop right here where that stoplight is. That sign. This was the end of the line for the CTA bus. Right here, and these two buildings, there were glass windows, but they were painted solid. And on the other side of the windows, there was a refrigerator, a cooler for the tavern. And this one kid wanted to he got drunk and he wanted to break the windows in the tavern. So he got a brick and threw it at the window, and the glass broke, but the rock came back because it hit the walls of the refrigerator. It almost hit him in the face. But this was the only place they hang around. There's no other amusement center here or nothing, you know. And this was the hallway. Right in the center here, there was a hallway going down. And you go all the way down there, and they had stores on each side. So we lived on the second floor, and I remember climbing up these stairs because there are two stairways, and climbing up to the second floor.
Oh, great.
That doorway there, and going up to the second floor. We lived on 113 Langley, and then we moved to here, and then we moved to 111th and Langley. The family that owned that corner building there was Kamansky's. They owned the whole building. And they used to have a bench there, and they used to sit out there every night and watch people going past and everything like that. Right here, the second house was Eugene Malkowski. He lived there. I remember hanging around with him. He was my age. We hung around together. There used to be a building, that blockhouse building in between these other two buildings there. And this is one of the sidewalks to the entrance to the building. And over on the other path, there's another sidewalk going into the building. And my dad had a garden from about 15, 20 feet from that building to 15, 20 feet to the other building. He had a garden. He grew tomatoes, he grew onions, he grew cilantro, parsley, Mexican parsley. Cantaloupes, he grew corn, green onions. And we used to sell the green onions to all the local stores here. He wanted to grow things, and he asked the people that owned this property if he could have his garden there, and they said, yeah, but you gotta cut all the weeds all the time. So he cut all the weeds all the time. In this building here, we lived on the third floor. Small, there was 3 rooms. We had the old coal stove, everything. Like I say, all 6 of us used to sleep in one room. And on the second floor, there was a family with kids, and one of the kids set the mattress on fire, and my mother came down and rescued these kids from burning. She saved them from the house burning down. And then the fire department came and everything like that, and then they took the little kid to the hospital. And Uncle Ray we were on the third floor, and we used to go up and down the fire escapes, climb on it like monkey bars, you know. And there was one fire escape step was broken where he fell and he cut his lip or something, and he almost fell through the fire escape. And Grandma took him to the hospital for some stitches. There are a bunch of little trees here. And I used to, when I was a kid, I used to start from that end and climb all the trees, and it used to be like a monkey and swing to one tree to another. We lived on the third floor, and I used to watch Grandpa go to the tavern there, and he used to kill chickens because that was a chicken restaurant. He wouldn't cut the heads off, he would break their necks and put them in boiling water, and then I would help him defeather the chickens. We went to back in Sherwin Williams. There's a farm there. My dad bought a goat from the farmer, and my dad cut its throat. We had no car or nothing, so we put the goat on a sled in a burlap sack, and we used to pull it about 4 miles, 5 miles back down here. And Grandpa hung the goat on in the basement on the rafters. Floor joists, and he would skin the goat. Now, the goat was on a sled. In order to get the skin off the goat, Grandpa made a hole in one of the legs of the goat, and he put a tire pump in there, and held it down, and he said, "Pump the air." So the air was going in between the skin and the meat. And it blew it up, and that's how he got all the skin off. And he kept pumping.
Can you imagine that? A tire pump inside of a goat?
Yeah, that's what he did.
Hey,
That's what he told me. He said, he put the hose right in there, and he said, "Pump." And I pumped, and the goat was getting fatter and fatter through the air, you know. And then he would cut the skin off.
What did he do with the goat?
We cooked it. We cooked it. We ate it.
A whole goat?
Yeah. We ate it.
It was a team of them.
Let me show you the house across the street where Freddie O'Levy lived. Freddie O'Levy flew in the second plane that dropped the atomic bomb in Japan. And he lived right here. I showed her the market hall. I showed her the places where I used to hang around as a kid. I showed her my father had a garden, a victory garden there, and I showed her where we used to live in different apartment buildings.
I've always loved coming to Pullman, and I always enjoy seeing where my mom and the family lived and grew up, and the history of the Pullman cars as well, the jobs, and what it gave to our families. And we're still here, almost the 90 years, right?
Yeah.